So, good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you are globally. It is a great pleasure to have with us Rena Crossley, who is a dear friend to begin with, and then also is an expert when it comes to team building and world renowned. She's got 15 years of experience in part of the executive team with Tab and facilitating and growing companies and teams. And the reason that I pitched Rena and she graciously agreed joining us today is that with today's AI thingies and whatever is going somewhere globally, the one thing that's common and that I've been getting is that there's a lot of misunderstanding what the facts are and what is opinions. People are behaving very radically. In our meetings, we're getting managers to say, I don't know, I don't have that much confidence that a certain employee or manager is going to stay. People quit for no apparent reason. So the stress and everything that's happening in the social media, I mean, I think you're all familiar wherever you are worldwide. You're also live streaming it. And I think with all the AI, the HI as I call it, the human factor is the critical part. And in companies, building trust and making trust as a critical success factor, I think it's critical. So Reina, I know that it's going to be illuminating, so the floor is yours. And if you've got questions, people, you can put it in the chat, and I will monitor the chat. Reina.
Fabulous. Thank you so much, Nir. Thank you for having me here today. Today I want to explore trust with you, what it is, how you can kill it, but also how you can bring it to life, and why that's going to matter for you and your business and your members if you're a TAB facilitator. I want to start first with a bit of a confession, though. I have, at some point in my career, done every single one of these things that I'm going to tell you today kills trust. I've done it, every single one. So this is not a lecture of me telling you how good I am at it. It's an intervention, actually, and it's one that I've already had. Now I get to work with leaders and teams to change how they approach trust in their organizations so that they can reap the rewards of commitment, empowerment, employee engagement, and of course, better bottom line success. How does that sound so far? Good stuff? Great. So Nir said he's going to help me by monitoring the chat box, which is fabulous. But before we get started, I want to ask you to complete this quick poll. There we go. So on a scale of 1 to 10, how confident are you that your team trusts you? Go ahead and fill that in. 0 or 1 would be not very confident at all, and 10 would be extremely confident. This is fabulous. So we've got some really high scores there, which is great to see, and which means that I'm going to get to learn from you guys as well as we go through this webinar today. Most business leaders that I ask score themselves around a 7. And when I work deeper in the organization, we find out that that number is usually a little bit lower, somewhere around a 4. And it's that gap between how we think people understand how we build and are trustful with them and the realities of their side of the situation to where they think that number actually is. We're going to explore that a little bit more. Now that you've got your numbers, a couple of 8s, 9s, and 10s, really brilliant, I want you to think about the biggest people challenge that you're dealing with right now. So that could be something around staff retention. Maybe it's about a conflict between 2 of your key employees. Maybe it's something that you feel you're not always getting the full story when you're talking to your key players. So write down just one challenge that you're dealing with right now. As we work through our webinar time today, I'd like you to consider how improving trust, even in a small way, can have a really positive impact on you and an immediate impact on that challenge that you've just raised. Hopefully by the end of today, you'll have a few more tools in your toolkit to help you as well. There will be interaction in this. And again, if you have any questions, pop them in the chat box as we move along. First thing I'm going to do is just share some numbers, some scary numbers, I think. The latest Gallup poll on the state of the global workforce tells us that employee engagement has fallen to 21%. So 4 out of 5 of your employees are disengaged. That's scary to me. They're showing up, but they're actively working against you when they're disengaged. They estimate that a fully engaged workforce could add up to almost $10 trillion in productivity to the global economy. 10 trillion. So it feels like wasted income. If we could just get a few more of these trust building exercises in, a few more engagement pieces built in, we might be able to unlock some of that extra capital. This is all about relationships. 74% of employees in low trust teams report disengagement within 12 months of starting a new role. And that's irrespective of how much they're getting paid. So even if you are very good at rewarding your employees with benefits and with a great salary and some of the other things that they've asked for on their tick sheet, if you don't have high trust, you might lose them anyway. You can't buy your way out of a trust deficit. High trust teams actually outperform low trust teams by 2.5 times on productivity metrics across all industries. And that's linked to how people deal with conflict, how they overcome little niggles between two people in the team, how the political games get washed away when you have high trust environments. And it means that the loudest idea is not the one that always wins. The best ideas win. So think about the last person who left your organization. Was it really about money? Where were they going next? What was it that was lacking when they left you? Let's get into a little bit of what is trust. So, who has an idea and can share what they think of when they hear the word trust? What is trust? I've got a definition.
Put in the chat.
Yeah. Nir, you've come off mute. What do you think of when you hear the word trust?
It's to know that you've got somebody, my back, got my back, something goes wrong, I can rely on him or her.
Yep, so you've got somebody who has your back. Yep. What about anybody else? What do you think of when you hear the word trust? We'll keep going then.
Follow the leader.
Yep, that you'll follow the leader. Yep, that you feel comfortable with their decisions and you're willing to follow them where they go. Yep, great. So Webster's defines trust as a firm belief in the character and the ability, the strength of someone or something. And it's that willingness to be vulnerable to their actions. And that's a bit to what you were saying about following them, that you are willing to go with them and do what they ask you to do if you have trust. It also acts as the foundation for cooperation and social interaction. And when we're talking about our work lives, this is the kind of stuff that really gets results. But even outside the workplace, we build trust and we have trust in a lot of different places. If we think about personal relationships, when you have trust with your partner or your friends or your family, you're able to be your best self. You can be completely honest with them. You can share your thoughts, your beliefs, your fears. And to Nir's point, they'll have your back no matter what. These are your trusted relationships. But that's not the only place where trust lives. Most of us spend about 1/3 of our day at the office, and that's about half of our waking hours. So half of your time when you're not asleep, you're spent working. So in organizations, we need to find trust in different ways. It acts as a catalyst for collaboration, innovation, and overall team performance, which ultimately leads to higher productivity and better outcomes for the organization. So how can we bring those trust ideas into the workplace? A few things. There are a couple of slides that have a lot of things on the slides. We will circulate them afterwards. A few things to be thinking about when we're talking about trust, especially in the workplace, is about psychological safety. If you've heard that phrase before, you'll have a good idea of what that means. It just is creating a place where people can feel fully engaged. They can bring themselves, they can share concerns, which means that they're able to learn from opportunities, and that drives growth. They have commitment and accountability, so they are open with being able to take on more work or not. They avoid burnout because they're being more open and honest about their workloads, and they're held accountable not just by their manager, but by other people in the team. They're open to new ideas, so they're innovative. They're willing to proactively, and I put proactively in there. I'm a big fan of challenge and conflict, but it needs to be done in a way that is productive to the organization. And that means higher staff retention. People feel more heard, more listened to. And of course, that means more productivity in the end because you're getting the best ideas. And the last one is the leadership challenge. And when we have leaderships who truly show up and demonstrate trust in the workplace, they are modeling vulnerability. They're able to put their hands up and say, I got that wrong, and this is what I've learned from it, and this is how we'll move forward. They're able to communicate openly. They're able to be more transparent. They demonstrate more empathy, and they have stronger teams because of it. So all that stuff sounds great, right? I'll give you a few more stats. And this one's all about the bottom line. So this is where we can see how more engaged, stronger relationships can help with customer loyalty as well. Those customers who are dealing with the same person on a regular basis. When somebody in the organization says they're going to do something, they do it. That keeps customers for longer, which means less time and resources wasted on developing new business and a stronger, stable income from repeat business. It's more collaborative. We use conflict to solve challenges early. They can be more open about their workloads. They become more innovative problem solvers, again, with less time firefighting and less time on burnout. Key members of the team stay longer. 61% are more likely to stay when they trust their leaders. So if you think back to some of those people that you've lost in the past, is there something that could have happened within the culture that might have been able to keep them to stay beyond money, beyond the additional benefits? And ultimately, studies show that businesses who measure trust, just by measuring it, have 3 times stronger profits than those who don't. So just by starting to think about it on a regular basis, creating a KPI, you can have 3 times stronger growth. So it adds up really quickly if we take a piece from each of that. And if you think about your own business, how much wasted time, how much are you losing in resources? How much time are you spending in meetings talking about people issues when you could be talking about profits and growth? How much could you gain on your bottom line if there was more of an emphasis on trust? So what I want to do is take a slurp of my drink and let you hear a different voice. We're going to start to think about building trust in a second, but I want to share this marble jar theory with you. And I'll just play this. Just give me a thumbs up when it starts to make sure that you can hear it. And as you watch it, I'd like you to think of 1 or 2 people and how you have earned trust with them. It's great if they are within a work environment, but if it's within your family, your friends, your personal relationship, that's also great. And at the end, if anybody wants to share 1 or 2 ways that they have earned a marble, and that will make sense soon, I'd be very happy to hear from you. So let's watch this short video. Thumbs up if you can hear it.
I've heard about your marble jar theory, so I got a jar of marbles.
I saw that.
Could you explain to me your theory?
This is how we teach trust. Where do I get my information? Ellen's in 4th grade, my oldest. She comes home from school. She slides down the door into a heap, sobbing. Oh my God, Ellen, are you okay? Are you hurt? What's going on? Something hard happened. She shared it very confidentially with 1 or 2 of her friends. They had told everybody in her class, all 30 kids. Everybody was laughing and pointing and making fun of her. And she said, I will never trust anyone again. in my mind was damn straight, not a fucking person. You trust your mama and that's it. That's not the right thing to do, right? You want a kid who can develop trust with others. So I said, trust is really hard. She said, I don't understand it. I said, trust is the marble jar. Every time you share something with someone that's confidential and they don't share it, they get a marble. When you want to share something really private and personal, you look for a friend whose jar is full of marbles. Do you have any marble jar friends? And she said, Hannah and Lorna. And I said, why? They've got big marble jars that are full. And I said, and this was what? It was crazy. Tell me something they do to earn marbles. Oh, well, like if I get to my tray late at lunch and there's no place to sit, Lorna will scoot over and give me half her seat and I can sit at the table. And then the other day when I had strep throat, Hannah was worried about me. So remember her mom called and said, Hannah's worried about Ellen. Why wasn't she at school? But then the biggest thing that Hannah did was the other day, Oma and Opa, my parents, came to my soccer game and Hannah looked over and goes, oh my God, your Oma and Opa are here. And I said, why was that a big deal? And she goes, because everybody's divorced and remarried and I've got 4 sets of people, and she remembered their names. And what was shocking to me is that Ellen was conveying that these marbles were being earned on these very small, she knew my grandparents' name. She gave me a seat to sit at. She checked on me when I was missing school. Trust is built slowly over time, a marble at a time. And that's how we teach trust to the most senior leaders in Fortune 100 companies. Leaders believe that in the middle of a crisis, you can just look at your people and say, trust me, here's what we're going to do. And it means nothing to people. What matters is a leader that walks past you in the morning and says, hey, good to see you, Stephen. How's your mom's chemo going? Marbles, marbles. Then when the crisis happens, you don't need to say, trust me. You just need to say what's on your mind. They trust you.
So somebody who's even more energetic than me describing how marbles can help you build trust. Who's seen that video before? Anybody? No, great. So the important bit for me is that trust is not just a light that we flip on or we flip off. It's something that is built really slowly over time with small pieces. So we are going to start to talk about how we can build trust. But before that, I like to start with how we kill trust, because these are the things that a lot of people do, sometimes without even knowing it. And we're going to just go through 6 of them at the moment. So I've chosen this 6 because working with business leaders and their teams over the last 20 years from around the world, I've started to notice a bit of a theme. And there are probably about 15 trust killers that could have made this top 6 list. But today I've chosen the ones that I've seen in most organizations at some point, and I'm putting my hand up again because I have at some point in my life done each and every one of these. Sometimes I've done it exceptionally well. I'm excelled at it, and it's not a good thing. So now I'm going to teach you some of the trust killers, and then we're going to talk about how we can overcome that killer. So the first one, saying what you'll do, but not actually doing it. So I get it. We've all been busy. We've been in meetings. We agree to do something. And maybe we say something like, I'll sort it. And it doesn't come from not wanting to do it. It comes from being busy. It might come from forgetting. It might come from losing a note. But every time that we say we're going to do something and we don't do it, we take a marble out of the jar. Correcting people in public. So this is an argument that we have quite a lot of in leadership circles that I'm in. And we decided that correction in public is not a leadership skill. This is something else. So it's theater, and it can be expensive theater. We can criticize in public, but it needs to be for the greater good. It needs to be for everybody in the room and not about a single person. So you'll know this one. Decisions are reversed after a meeting. So you know you're in a meeting on a Monday morning, everybody is nodding in agreement. Then at 3 p.m., somebody gets a WhatsApp message from the MD, maybe you're the MD, and it says, actually, we're going to do this instead. So this could be because you got new information. This doesn't mean that you are just reversing it for no good reason. but it does feel like whiplash to your team sometimes. Reversing decisions can still happen, but there's a great way of doing it without killing trust. The next bit is searching for blame. So I've been in meetings for sure where people have asked the question, who did this? Why did you do that? Who owns this project? And only when talking about negative results. Nobody wants to be in that position. These kinds of questions create cultures of cover-ups and of hiding information. 2 more to go. The next one is about having an open door policy. You've heard this before. You say your door is always open, but your face says otherwise. Your body language says something else. When somebody walks in, you know it's going to be bad news. You're tense, and they can feel that. We want to encourage people to bring us problems quite early on, or to feel empowered to deal with them, within their colleague networks. So they might delay asking for help if you have this open door policy, but go away face. So we just want to make sure that we get to problems as early as possible. And the last one, and for me, this has been the most challenging, is setting out a culture and then making sure that you follow it yourself. So this one takes real consistency, vulnerability, and honesty. When you make a mistake, you have to share it and what you've learned from it so that you don't repeat it. Are there any other big trust killers that you can think of at this point? Anything else in the organizations that you've worked with where you felt, ugh, maybe you've done it yourself? Maybe somebody else?
I'm looking at the bullets, and I think that well, again, matching, it's sort of 2 things come to mind. One is if I say something and the other side got it different than what I anticipated, and so we got kind of a misunderstanding that is rooted in me not making sure that my message came across.
Right. Okay. So I'm hearing that in 2 different ways. So do you mean you think you've agreed something, but they're not getting exactly what you mean in the message? So you've not said it exactly how you wanted?
One thing. That's
Yep.
well,
And the other thing?
in the same line, or if somebody else has something to say, then you're welcome to put it in the chat as well. The other thing is that again, I'm looking at if it is it not like I think something is wrong, or the other side had behaved in a way that upsets me, and I kind of say, well, I'm not going to talk to him about it because, I mean, it might be my fault. Maybe I misunderstood. I'm not going to start an argument, so I keep it inside.
Yeah.
So start building,
Avoiding the conflict.
avoiding conflict. Yeah.
Yeah, we're definitely going to talk about that. And that could have made this top 6 list for sure. Avoiding the conflict. It links a little bit to the lack of transparency from the chat box as well. Thank you very much. Absolutely. When people feel like things are being hidden from them, and that is even the feel of a conversation that's not being had. So in those examples where you need to have a conversation with somebody and you put it off, that doesn't go unnoticed by that person either. So not only does it lack transparency, but it sometimes makes the meeting feel even bigger when it actually comes. So it has that snowball effect. So there are lots of things that we can do to break trust or to kill trust. Let's talk about some of the ways that we can overcome those with trust creators. So it's exactly the flip side of some of this stuff. Not listening. Yes, I mean, prime example, or listening and not hearing. So what is the difference? I don't know. But absolutely, yeah, that could have made the list too. So not paying attention to somebody, not fully engaging. You know, we talked about 21% of employees are engaged. So what are the other, what's the 79% doing? Yep. Are they listening? Are they hearing? Are they buying in? Yeah. So trust creators, let's look at each of these. So promises not kept and no accountability. If you're not sure you're going to deliver something, don't promise you will. That's the easiest way to do it. So if you did promise, write it down today. If you're going to be late, tell them before the deadline or ask for help. So these feel simple. They feel like, of course, it's too easy. But how many of us have fallen into that? I'll give you this by a certain date, or I'll have that done by Friday. And Saturday morning, the email comes in saying, oh yeah, I haven't forgotten about you. Yep, I've done that for sure. Public criticism. I like to use the 80-20 rule. So praise publicly. You know, let people know what's working really well. You want to reinforce good behavior. You want to make sure that people feel, you know, welcomed and excited about what's working well in the organization. If you do need to correct and it has to be public, that's because it needs to be relevant to the whole audience that you're talking to. If it's a conversation with your strategic leadership team, does everybody in the room need to hear about this piece so that it doesn't get repeated? The next bit is before any meeting, make sure that you ask yourself, am I committed to this for 72 hours? Okay, so we're just talking 3 days. Can I commit to this action for 72 hours? If the answer is not yes, don't leave the meeting. Don't finish for a quick exit and say, yes, we'll do this, just so that you can end the meeting. Keep talking about it, get buy-in, and then you can agree to something else. So searching for blame, the next time something goes wrong and somebody flags it, thank them publicly. Thank people for flagging issues early. Make sure that people feel like this is a way to earn trust by telling you in advance that they have a problem, that they need help. And you as well, if you're going to be missing a deadline or you're struggling with something or you want some fresh thinking, be open about it. Bring that out into the table early. The next bit is the open door, but only for good news. In your next one-to-ones with your teams, ask them what they don't want to tell you. So I know some of us use that in our coaching work. What's one topic you don't want to talk about, right? Well, that's what we're going to talk about today. So you can ask that as well of your team. What's one thing you don't want to tell me about? And if they feel comfortable starting with that conversation, it'll just open the door for better communication and more transparency. If you're not comfortable with that one, a secondary follow-up could be what's working really well and what's your biggest challenge at the moment. So you can start with a bit of a softer approach as well. And the last one, again, this one was the hardest for me because it really requires that consistency, is that you've got to live the culture yourself. If you decide on a culture and values and you've listed those, sometimes you've got great banners, you've stuck them on the wall, you've presented them to the whole group, there was loud music and people were cheering. I don't know if that happens around the world, but I've seen it in the US, I've seen it here in the UK. People get excited about values. You must demonstrate them as a leader, your whole leadership team. If you help to create those, you have to demonstrate that you will do them. So what other trust creators do we have? So we had some trust killers like a lack of transparency and not listening. What about the positive side? How else can we build trust with people?
Empower people.
Empower them. Oh, I love it. How do you do that?
Well, for example, if you take point number 4, you tell them, okay, you found a problem or you found a mistake, kindly suggest a way to solve it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, give them some power to make decisions, to bring fresh ideas. Yep, to ideally solve the problem. How nice. Yes. Yep, I love that. One of the things that Brené mentioned in her marble jar was the bit about being personal. You know, we talk about employees coming into the office to work, and I don't want to know about their personal lives. But actually, knowing a bit about their personal lives helps you at work. If somebody's mom, in her example, was going through chemo, if you mention that you are paying attention to that and you are, you know, aware of what's going on in their personal lives and you can support them, you're building trust. And when you need help, you need them to stay later, you need them to work on a big project with you, it gets repaid. So ignoring people's personal lives is not the right job. It's not the right way to run organizations anymore. We have to be personal. We want to be personal in a way that has boundaries, though. So in another webinar, we talk about boundaries, employee boundaries, but not for this one. The important bit is that people are people, whether they're at home or they're at work. So just bear that in mind. We also saw follow-up. Yep. So if you have created tasks, do you mean with someone? Yep. So if people are going to be held accountable for something, follow up. If they have mentioned maybe that they've got a big, I don't know, birthday or holiday or something, you can follow up on the personal side as well. Absolutely. Give them freedom to be creative and be open with their suggestions. Absolutely. When we talk about bottom line success, getting more people to bring ideas to the table is going to enhance your results. There's no way that it detracts from your results. Even bad ideas help create good ideas by discounting them. So even saying we should not do this, but I'm just going to mention it so that we all agree it's an option and we can park it, can really help to open up some really great ideas. I love these. So what can you do this week then to build trust? So I'm going to give you 3 things. Actually, I'm going to give you more than 3, but we're just going to start with these 3. I promised you some tools and not just theory. So here are 3 things, not 90-day programs, not strategic offsites, just 3 things you can do before Friday to build more trust with your team or your clients or your colleagues. The first one is to self-assess. Ask yourself, is there anything that I'm doing as a leader that makes my team's job harder for them? So you've seen the 6 things, my personal list of trust killers. You've seen those in our discussion. Is there anything that you're doing that might make their job harder? Once you've done your self-reflection, of course, you can ask your team, or even better, get someone external like myself or Nir to ask them as well. It's really amazing to me how honest people are with an external party when someone asks questions like this. It's really eye-opening. The next thing that you can do, and when you get those results, you need to make sure that you listen. So who said listening before? It's sick, I think. Yep. So when you get those results, it might be difficult. You've asked them, what does your leader do that makes your job harder? You need to listen. Don't defend the results. Don't explain them. Don't justify them. Just listen and say thank you. The act of asking and receiving the answer without flinching is in itself a trust deposit. After that, you can take the feedback and act on whatever you think is right for you. But because most leaders never ask the question, they're afraid of the answer, they're not getting the whole truth from their team. So they're really missing an opportunity. The next bit is a commitment log. So we all do to-do lists, I think, do we? We all have a list of things that we write down we're going to do during the day or during the week, and then we commit to other people as the week goes on. Keep that commitment list of what you have committed to with other people. Write it down. And at the end of the week, whether it's good news or bad news, tick the things that you actually completed by deadline and see how you're doing. It might just mean that you need to change your language a little bit. Instead of saying, I'll do it, or let me get back to you by the end of the week, you might need to find a different phrase to say something like, I'm not going to get to it this week, I'll do it next week. Something that will give you still keeping your trust, but a little bit more time to complete some actions. And finally, and we talked a little bit about this earlier, is have the conversation. So if you are needing to have a conversation with one of your employees, your friends, your family, your partner, anyone, just have the conversation. The more that you put it off, the worse it gets for both of you. I'm going to share as a piece of extra bits after this webinar, a 2-page sheet to help you have more difficult conversations, to help you prepare to have those conversations so they're less difficult. I'm also going to share a trust audit with you in a few minutes, which is a 10-question audit that, based on your results, will give you a few ideas as well as how you can build trust a little bit more effectively. Beyond these 3, there's one more. And again, it's something that we started to talk about a little bit earlier. Can anybody remember how much more profitable teams are that measure trust? Not profitable, productive. How much more productive teams are just by measuring trust? Nir, you came off mute. You looked like you had the answer.
It's a guess. I mean, I don't have the presentation. My trusted brain is so much with that presentation. I haven't seen it before. Was it 2.5?
It's so close. It was 3, but it was either 2.5 or 3. And you're correct. If we round up, it's 3. So yes, well done. It was 3 times more productive just by measuring trust. Isn't that interesting? I find that so curious how brains work. So here are 5 things that you could track. So you can have the percentage of, I trust the leadership in this organization. So you can start to measure that as a result on your surveys if you run surveys. You could ask, or you could look at the percentage of completed on-time activities in your plan. You could ask leavers over the last 12 months if they, oh, that doesn't feel right. Oh, I see it. I see a slight error here. You could ask people in your organization, I can speak up about problems and mistakes. We want them to be saying, yes, I feel confident to do that. You could also track the number of people who have left, who you wanted to keep. So when people leave and it's a good thing for the business and it's someone that you didn't want to keep, this is not the same question. We want to know, of those people who we really wanted to retain, could we have if we built a bit more trust? And the last one is, I can see myself working here in 2 years. That question gives you the ability to think further into the future. You can ask them questions about what's working well. You have the opportunity to change what's not working for them, but it's a great question to open the door to further conversations. So, Nir, you have your hand up?
I'm curious because there's a lot of people here that got tens of years of experience working in an organization, large organizations. How many here, we could put in chat or how many people here have ever measured trust as a KPI? How common had you ever encountered? Have you ever heard in a friend's company, like, if you're willing to kind of acknowledge whether you've ever heard or participated in measuring trust inside an organization?
Yep. Yaron, you came off. Yep.
Yeah, I wonder, how do you measure? I think it's a better question because it's not a numerical KPI. I think how is, do we have a tool to measure trust?
Yeah. So there are a lot of different tools out there. I whittled them down to these 5 indicators, but you're absolutely right. If you already run employee surveys, you can add a question in there that deals directly with trust, or a couple of questions. If you are just at the very beginning of your journey of measuring trust, it's going to...
May I ask, have you ever took a survey like this as being an employee of a large organization? It's borderline nonsense, you know.
Yes.
Because everybody will say, I trust, you know, although it's completely anonymous, you know, to track your, you know, there are many ways to track, and sometimes you have a division or a group of 2 people, 3 people, you know, 5 people at max, you know.
Yeah.
How can you say that you do not trust on an official survey your manager? So
yeah, I think it's a great question. And if the survey is, and we have all worked in organizations like you've described, here comes the annual employee survey again. I'm super happy, yippee. You know, we've all done that. What we need to do is to change the behavior of what happens after those surveys, so that the survey has more power.
And I can tell you from personal experience that even if you say that you do not trust your manager, most of the time, nothing happens.
Yeah, nothing happens. Sorry, nothing happens. And that's the challenge, is that's what's happening after the survey. So just asking the question is not enough. It's a starting point. But if you don't act on it, if you don't demonstrate that you've listened, some of the things that we've talked about before, if you're not demonstrating that on a regular basis, then it's not going to matter. Yeah. Absolutely.
We've got, as you said, we've got people that chatted online. It's customary to run all sorts of, you know, assessments, like performance assessments and organizational assessments. So it's kind of, it's not direct, like it's indirectly suggests whether trust present. But I think that here's a funny story. 20 something years ago, I had a manager who worked for one of my largest projects, and he was bold enough at the time to come to me and say, "Why do I hate him?" So,
why do you hate him?
Do I hate him? Like, we always argued, but in my opinion, in my eyes, it was that I am consulting with him. Always, like, we were debating. I wasn't arguing with him. We were debating, and he came to me and said, "Why do I hate him?" And so it was it was a pivot moment, but I think the only time that I think that there was one instance in which a huge corporation started asking the question directly, how much confidence do you have in the management?
Yeah.
That was the only, I think we've done it once. Yeah. And that's, I mean, to your own point, they've done it once. I think that what you mentioned earlier, I think it's I'll say this, one of my best takeaways from here. I think that people, if you measure it once, it says nothing. But if you keep, like, you can fake one time, you can fake twice, but for the long run, if people keep giving 10 across the board for consecutive months, then if everything goes well, the number is true. But if everything is 10 and there is always things that falling through the crack, then you know the people are lying, and that's an indication by itself. So just by asking it, even if everybody lies on the action, but if you keep measuring it, you have other people are so afraid of telling the truth, or eventually you will get to a true number. So I think that's important to say. It's not whether there is trust or not. It's just when you start measuring and really paying again, but consistently, not just, one time off and all right, I got a number, great.
Yeah, and I think there is there is a culture thing to overcome. To Yaron's point, how do you now in this new survey make it real, make it listened to? What are they doing with the results? Or is it just an indicator they can put on, stats when they're trying to get new employees? We want this to benefit the people who are already in the organization, right? Trust needs to be something that is inherent so that when new people come in, they feel it straight away. So surveys is definitely one of the ways. One-to-ones, another way, asking some of those hard questions in the one-to-ones, building trust, maybe the wider, I am happy, I love it here, that survey, maybe that wider survey isn't the right survey for everyone. Maybe it is one-to-one interviews with an external person that really gets to the heart of what's going on. If you can identify that you have kept one key employee and not lost them, that's a real win. The cost of replacing employees, especially at a higher level, at a skilled level, or even, those people who are bringing innovation straight out of university, they bring a lot to an organization. If we can keep the right people who believe what we believe, who can live our values, that's gold dust. So we have talked a little bit about measurement. It's always an exciting thing when we get to the data. Nobody ever said numbers were exciting until you start talking about them, and then they can be really fun. So we asked earlier what the biggest challenges that you're working on with people right now. Anybody willing to share one of their challenges and maybe a technique that they're thinking about now that might help? In a moment, I'm also going to share in the chat box the trust audit, the 10-question trust audit that you can take away. It doesn't ask for your email address. You don't have to put any personal information in. You can just complete it online. And if you want the results, you can print it there and then, but we don't store your information. So just a nice, easy, complete.
Challenge. Give them a challenge.
So not everything. Oh, go ahead, Nir.
I think that one of the challenges is things are not like there's a gap between what a certain person is telling and what it's actually being done. So on the face of things, it seems like, well, we're on the same page, but like this, and think that the measuring whether there's trust in there,
Mm-hmm.
and actually like going, it's not taken for granted. So.
Yeah. I think some of the challenge is, and it's probably a little bit to that point as well, is it might be communication and not trust. I know a lot of you are familiar with the DISC work through Wiley or Insights or other things and how you communicate with people. Building better communication skills also builds trust. Being able to communicate in the same way or on the same wavelength, builds trust. So being open and honest in a way that the other person can receive is going to have a real positive impact as well. Fabulous. So we're into the Q&A section. What I've done is I've dropped the trust audit in the chat box. Again, it's 10 fairly short questions. And after that, you get your results out of 50 and also a little bit, 3 tips that you might be able to try if you needed to. Now, our scores in this room today were pretty high with 8, 9s, and 10s. If you think about your members and how they describe the challenges that they're facing, your clients, maybe even your suppliers or your customers who have come in and talked to you about the challenges that they're having with their team, some of these techniques might work for them as well. And you can share that trust audit as much as you want with anybody. It's absolutely free for you to use. So any questions? Excellent. Okay, well, we are good then. So the last thing, Nir, yes?
Just, I think that if you could drop your email in the chat, so if people want to get in touch and kind of if people have questions, so I think it'd be great if you could just drop your email in the chat. But
there you go. Yeah.
LinkedIn page, but yeah. Last chance for questions.
Yeah. That's it. You'll never be able to talk to me again. No, I'm just kidding. You can email me if you have something that you didn't get answered today. Maybe you didn't feel comfortable in a setting and you think of something, or if you need help with one of your members, your clients, absolutely reach out to me. I am very happy to help. So the last thing is just to say thank you before we close this bit of the session. Somebody once described to me, trust is like Wi-Fi. So we all know Wi-Fi. Yeah. Everyone assumes it's working and it's working great. And then when it doesn't, what happens? Who's to blame? What's going wrong? Is it my computer? Is it you? Is it the network? Yeah, we start looking at things. So trust is a really important thing, as is Wi-Fi, especially on our online session. So I hope you have enjoyed the session today. I absolutely did. Thank you very much for your interaction. And again, if you have any questions, please let me know.
Round of best takeaways, if you could write down, chat, what your best takeaway, what are you going to do? We're always doing essentially that. What is your one thing that you are taking with you from today? Yeah. So either if you want to come mute or in the chat, that'd be great. And we'll send the recording later on. So thank you so much, Raina. It's been illuminating and really lots of things to do.
This is also the first time that I've been on a live stream. So that was new. I know nothing changed on my side, but I feel like I've ticked a box today. So thank you very much. A new experience has been had.
You never know where you